we do get to see some crazy stuff here if we see some target bans.
Yep, I think the first set of bans has tended to usually be kind of formulaic, but as you said, some teams have differed. It's normally the blue side who can lead the charge in that and say, hey, we're not just going to ban the OPs, but based on how this is developing, Nocturne is one of those ones that's like, you sometimes hit banned, you don't always, but Varus, Orianna are just excessively banned. Karma comes through. Rumble is going to probably be banned, I guess, by Gen G. And it's a Nivea by D+ here. So I assume it's going to be Rumble on the third ban for Gen G.
Yeah.
And then for D+, I feel like it's probably mid or jungle is the first pick. A lot of teams have been going first pick Jarvan. We've seen a good amount. So could see that being prioritized. Otherwise, some teams do just lean towards picks like, you know, Azir, Annie.
Ryze.
Less so.
Just with the Anivia ban.
With the Anivia, yeah, that's fair.
That's really the only reason for that angle. I think Ryze is definitely taking a couple steps down in terms of his priority. And it's just Annie. So that makes a lot more sense for week 5 here.
Yep. Definitely a strong pick. And we often see Aurora picked into it. That has been the go-to matchup in the LCK. Chovy, obviously an excellent Aurora. We saw him in the LCK Cup playoffs. In fact, against D+, having that crazy Aurora game. So you could honestly just go for that in this rotation. They are going to prioritize the Bard for Duro. And you could go Aurora now and then have a bit more flexibility on your third pick, or you could go for a jungler here. As I said before, Jarvan's been really heavily prioritized by teams. But instead, they're going to go for the Ryze, potentially. And they do lock that in. So knowing the mid matchup, knowing that you're going up against Annie, it's not going to be a Nivea and it's not going to be Cassiopeia, they're happy to commit to that. But not the matchup we often see between Annie and Aurora.
Yeah. Maybe they want to see if Ezreal's picked up early and maybe not pick the Jarvan just yet. Perhaps get a jungle on 3 for Canyon, something like a Pantheon. Go Ryze Pantheon if that looks good for you.
The problem with that is Jace now being picked by D+, puts a lot of pressure on that third pick for Gen G to take something like Yorick or Sion, which will undoubtedly be banned if you don't. We do see the Jace picked up. Probably going to see jungle, just have the top side of the map picked up. We often see D+ going for the Lee Sin paired with the Annie has been popular for them. That point and click CC, and Lucid very confident on that. But you could also go for the likes of Jarvan, Xin Zhao, all good picks. But it looks like they are going to go for that Lee Sin. They hovered just before. And now for Gen G, do you give the draft weight to Keen? Which I think a lot of teams would do, but we have seen Gen G, I feel like Keen's been a bit more sacrificial in draft and been like, you know what, I'm fine to go after the bans. I'm okay with this. There's other tanks you could play into Jace. We'll see if they opt to prioritize him here or they go in a different direction. You could get a pairing with the Bard, you know, Jim Bard really strong.
Jim, yeah.
Or just pick a jungler up for Canyon himself. End up going Kate Bard. So, you know, prioritizing getting a strong bot lane for Ruler and Duro. But again, kind of a thing that Gen G's been commonly doing is being a bit sacrificial on Keen's pick. I think for Gen G, there's a lot of things you can put bans towards. First off, Nautilus, which we've seen egregious hitbox on the dredge line combined with Bard's rotund hitbox.
So rotund. That was crazy. I was watching that.
Over the wall. I think D+, you probably just go Yorick. I mean, you could ban junglers. Yorick is often a good pick into the Jace. So Yorick, Sion if you go top lane. Yeah. But Jarvan, Xin Zhao if you're going towards the jungle. I think all of these are in the pool of things you could ban. Pantheon as well, to be honest. Pantheon and Ryze really strong. They actually go for the Vi, which is interesting. It feels like there's a lot of junglers that you could play in this situation. Like we've seen the Pantheon Vi be successful, the Pantheon Ryze be really successful. Although I think some teams have been dropping off their Pantheon priority a little bit. Ashe Seraphine is still available for D+, so maybe Gen G put a ban towards that, but instead going for a Jhin ban.
Yeah, Jhin oftentimes used into harass lanes just to try to survive We've seen guys like Guma, you know, when the Jhin is banned or not available, just go for MF as well, which we did see just yesterday. So it could be another option, although Smash, I don't think he's a big MF player.
I think Jhin and MF work well because they're strong laners, but they don't rely as much on pairings.
Yeah.
Ashe, you kind of really want the Seraphine. We have seen it played with other stuff when you're forced to, but I feel like you can kind of just go Jhin with whatever and be mostly happy. That being said, D+ do have both their picks on the same rotation, so and the enemy bot lane is fully picked, so I don't think there's too much concern for them snapping up a duo. It is just going to be the Xin Zhao coming through for Gen G, which is interesting that we saw this priority of banning the Vi Pantheon for D+. Obviously limits some of the, I'd say, gank pressure.
Yeah.
These two picks, really good CC offering to just pick off a target. Might give a bit of reprieve to Shiwu in the top lane on this Jace. But Xin Zhao very strong in the skirmishes still, and that ult's going to have a good amount of value in the team fights. Now we get to see what D+ go. There's still like the Ezreal as well, which we know Smash is really proficient on. Looks like they might go Lucian Milio though, which has been a bot lane that's definitely been rising in priority. I say Milio, they go Nami, which I feel like Lucian Milio has been like the stronger bot lane we've seen for how it's been performing. But Lucian Nami, a tried and true LCK favorite. And it looks like for Gen G, we didn't see any top lane bans in the second rotation from D+, so they're leaning towards just giving Keen the Scion, not going for the Yorick in this situation.
Yeah, I think it's just so dangerous to blind pick Jace and the Keen. I don't really like that. That's the biggest thing I take from this draft. I mean, there's a lot of other things, but for me, I've been a big blind Jace hater. We saw Zeus have some luck on it yesterday, but a lot of our Jaces have been struggling, especially in the Keen Scion, and you kind of just let them have it.
To me, what feels interesting is that they went for that Jace and they had the opportunity to ban away Yorick Scion. And they instead went for the Vi Pantheon, and we still got Xin Zhao for Canyon. It felt like there were enough junglers that giving 2 bans to the jungle was still going to allow Canyon to be in a strong position. I can understand not wanting to deal with like Ryze Pantheon, that makes sense, but I just feel like Canyon still got like a top tier jungler, and you gave Keen free choice in that top lane pick. I do feel like the D+ composition, there's a lot of poke between the Lucian Nami and the Jace, a lot of ability to chunk people out, and then you have that Annie Lee Sin to get the fight started. But I think it's going to be a lot trickier when you're dealing with this pretty bulky front line. Like, you're going up against the likes of a Scion who can soak a lot of damage, and a Xin Zhao who, with that ultimate, soaks a lot of damage as well. So this kind of feels like a pretty straightforward team fight composition for the side of Gen G, whereas a bit more nuanced for D+.
Well, let's see how they play it out here as we hop onto the Rift for game number 1. All right, here we go. Game number 1 here at Saturday Showdown. D+ Kia up against Gen G. Going head-to-head. D+ Kia the last time out in round 1. They did take the 2-0 over Gen G, who are now looking for their revenge, as Gen G have slowly climbed up in their form. D+ Kia, on their side, have had some really easy matchups as of late. You know, they've gone up against Bro, who did look good yesterday, but that was against DNS. They also went up against DNS, and also went up against BNK FearX, who have been struggling, currently 2-7 are BNK FearX. So D+ Kia, they're coming off of kind of an easy stint, and now they got to go up against the Titan again.
And interestingly, this Kate Bard lane that Ruler and Dura are playing is actually the lane Smash and Korea played game 1 last time they met. And Smash and Korea went a combined 5-1 and 19. So very successful for them, and now Ruler and Dura are playing it themselves. You know, Bard has been very common at the moment, and obviously you can understand the synergies with Bard Caitlyn, but we've definitely seen Jhin Bard be the more popular combination. So just interesting, they're kind of adopting what D+ played last time. Already you can see that early pressure onto Lucian Nami. Lucian Nami definitely has seen better days in terms of its laning prowess, but even at its peak of power, it was more so about that one-item spike. And honestly, not the easiest lane to play. You know, Caitlyn Bard, you just hammer away at them. If you land a skill shot, you know, you set up a trap. But Lucian Lucian Army, you have to kind of play around your short range and getting those burst combos down. So not the easiest lane to play in this matchup.
Yeah, definitely not going to be that easy for the lane. I do think, you know, Lucian, he did get those recent buffs, I believe, on the patch, and since then he's seen a bit more play. And, you know, it's been fun to see our AD carries moving back to the Lucian. I mean, we had them all the time in the past, but, you know, we had a nice little break, and then now, you know, even Gumiusi was playing it yesterday. We did see a lot more Lucian prio nowadays, especially with some of these duos. Is Canyon going to get started on the Scuttle Crab? And Lucid says, you can have it. I'm just going to go to the top side of the map.
Yeah, for a while we'd seen Lucian be maxing W second instead of the E, the dash. And then with the changes, they made that even better because they gave you 2 seconds off the cooldown at rank 1 in the dash, same cooldown late game. The mana cost is also lower, so it just meant that the build everyone had transitioned to already was more incentivized. And 2 seconds off your dash cooldown early makes a big difference. When you think of, like, you use your ability, you use your passive as much as possible to get the cooldown reduced, and then you had a window in which you'd used all your passive procs and it was still unavailable. So even though the full cooldown was 18 seconds, after you used up your passive, it was a lot lower than that. So the actual reduction of 2 seconds made a much bigger difference. And as you said, we've been seeing teams prioritize it more and more. The Lucian Milio, I think, definitely the more popular option right now. But we even saw Lucian Alistair yesterday.
Yeah.
Which, for the most part, when we've seen Lucian this year, it's been Lucian plus X. And the X has been a fixed pool of champions that synergize with him, which Alistair hasn't been. So it's interesting we're starting to see him, at least in one example, just paired more independently with a champion where they're like, hey, we want this support, and Lucian's good enough on his own.
Yeah, Lucian just feels individually like a pretty strong pick nowadays, even into what can be a very high-range, punishing duo down on the bottom side. It was pretty interesting to see, well, this is pretty common, actually, Keen getting the win in the lane up against you even early on.
Yeah.
We're not sure exactly how he chunked him out.
It's a bit concerning, because the thing with this matchup is the expectation is that Jace comes out ahead in the lane, has the harass, has the range advantage. And then Sion outscales just because he becomes that brick wall and that great frontliner, especially sort of in that transition period between the middle late game. He just is so bulky, so hard to kill. But Jace with the gold lead is a big threat, so that's kind of how the balance of the matchup. But if you're already struggling in the lane and actually down on farm a little bit, it is not going how you wanted it to go. You don't pick Jace to go even against a Sion.
And unfortunately, Xiu has not been the only one that has struggled into Keen Sion with the Jace. This has kind of been a recurring theme, which again goes back to the draft where we were a bit curious to see that Sion was not banned. Duro very far up in the lane, but Lucid is going to show up. Canyon also here, as now a little 3-on-3 skirmish. Ruler and Duro are pretty low, and the net is going to be interrupted by the bubble as they have to get over the wall. At least they have that safety with that bar. But now Showmaker coming down means that probably just have to give up the play down on the bottom side.
Yeah, no tippers on Showmaker, but still had the stun ready, had to respect that threat. I do find a cute little synced magical journey from Ruler and Duro at the same time. We saw Duro, as you said, positioned very aggressively. Bombard you kind of can with the alcove because you have that way of getting out. But the bubble catching onto Ruler definitely being a big threat.
And yeah, this is just the same pattern that we've seen up in the top side.
Yeah.
Not just Keen against Jace, but also the way he plays it out every single time. Lands the slow, hits you with the smash, and then ults into you, and you're just forced to flash away.
The fact that she was that HP and flashless is not a good start, and they're looking to dive, but Korea and Lucid are here.
There's a lot of people up here from the side of D plus Kia. Lucid trying to get something done, but that's going to be first blood going over to the Xin Zhao. The kick comes in from Lucid as Chovy just flashes back to safety, gets to his team, and that's going to be a nice little dive from the side of Gen G.
Such a good read from Chovy to flash back to the tower. He knows the minions are there to tank. He knows his team is there to back him up, able to get away from the play. And the fact that Xiu dies there, despite the fact that Lucid and Korea read it, they were there available to back him up, But at that HP with no summoner, it just wasn't enough. Gen G had the members, they brought the reinforcements, the Rise came in as well, and as a result, this top lane matchup is starting to spiral a bit.
Yeah, this is just what we've become accustomed to. Gen G with a nice aggressive dive. I feel like whichever team is able to get some really nice pressure with dives, either in top or bot, is generally going to get a nice lead going into the mid game in this meta. Ruler did force the barrier with his ult. Meanwhile, we got a trade here in the mid lane. Lucid trying to go on a Chovy, but the Sonic Wave is going to miss. And now Showmaker being chunked out as Canyon comes over with red buff. Flash comes in. The wind becomes lightning, but no damage follow-up from the side of Canyon or Chovy. As now Canyon is on the run here with the Crescent Guard and should be okay.
You can see Canyon trying to find the burst there onto Showmaker. Didn't quite have it. Committed the early flash. Knew he was going to flash after and thought maybe the wind becomes lightning can finish him off. Did not have the damage though, and it ends up being a trade of summoners between D+'s mid laner and Gen G's jungler. Seen a lot of aggression back and forth between these two teams so far.
This is good from Duro, just get some deep vision in. And your Bard, so no threat really. Not a lot of supports that can just do that. Generally you have to, you know, link up with your jungler if you want to be safe.
It's also when you look at...
Siu does not have flash here. He is going to get the knockback at least, but even though it's not a kill, it's a Jace that's low once again.
Every time we look top lane, Shiva just seems to be under so much pressure in this matchup. And Chovy doesn't have his ult currently, but as soon as it's available, it doesn't take much from just to lean top lane and put some threat down on Shiva. So Shiva has to... He was channeling his recall, he's actually cancelled it. He's staying around at low HP. His TP is up soon. I think maybe he's trying to wait for that. But he's in such a dangerous position. If anyone shows up top lane to assist with this, it could just be another death for the Jace.
Yeah, and that's not a Jace that's ahead by any means. We haven't had either team be able to pick up the Dragon. Canyon's kind of sitting around it. Looks like maybe he has started it there. As the Scuttle Crab is gone and he's attacking something, so might be able to pick up this first objective for the side of Gen G, who already have a nice little 1,000 gold lead.
Yeah, you kind of see the payoff of Durus setting up all this vision on the Bard. As you were saying before, very hard to punish the Bard, going for that vision. But especially with this composition from D+, it's only really Showmaker who can hold you accountable. If he can get in range to stun you, then that's when you can see Duro going down. But otherwise, it's so hard for anyone else really to hold him in place and take him down. And when Showmaker has no flash, Duro can kind of just do what he wants. Do you see the Tibbers come down in mid lane on a Chovy just for a trade, but not doing too much damage yet?
Yeah. This is definitely part of the reason why you pick the Rise, because you're always going to be so tanky with Merc Treads and an early Catalyst, so you just kind of get to tank it and not care, continue clearing the waves, and you don't really get you know, pushed out of lane because of that, Annie, which some other picks can potentially be.
I'm really going to be concerned on how they are going to kill Keen.
Yeah.
I think there's going to come a point in this game
Yeah.
where he's just an absolute brick wall.
And I feel like he can kind of just build armor. Like, Annie can be annoying, you know, with...
Yeah, Annie doesn't do enough damage to tanks.
Yeah, it's just, she's got her burst combo and then a little bit of burn from Tibbers.
Yeah.
Malignance, but like after that, do you really care? I think your health pool is enough, so he can just stack like 300 armor and never care.
Yeah.
Also
like,
potential for a Mountain Soul in this game.
You'll eventually get some magic resist, but you know, you're not in a rush to pick it up. You see Gen G leaning down here, trying to get some control of the area.
Bro's actually so fast, not able to catch the Lee Sin, who is even more mobile.
Yeah, good dodge from Lucid.
Going in for this one is Lucid. Gonna force that magical journey. Bit of pressure onto the bottom lane of Gen G already.
You know, credit to D+ there in a 3v4 scenario, able to fight.
Lucid looking for the kill, forces flash. And now he's at least in behind enemy lines, but he doesn't really care about that. At least Ruler is able to back away.
Yeah, very heads-up play from Ruler to get out of that situation. You saw D+ actually trading up in a 3v4 situation, getting some chunk outs in return, and then Lucid forcing the summoners from Dury. Now, I was saying before, it's only really Showmaker who poses a big threat to the Bard, but Lucid actually proving that he can connect the Sonic Waves and punish him too.
Trying to move together here. Realm Warp available for Chovy. I mean, there's no objective down here, but if they catch someone in transition, could be nice, as they're hiding on Bush. Showmaker and Lucid are here as well together with careers, so I don't think anything should come of this. Just clearing out some vision. Chovy is Chovy in this game. Does have a large number of CS. Our pre-show is talking about how it's just consistent Chovy, you know, he just kind of sits there, does everything right, and makes very few mistakes. Not always the flashiest plays, but sometimes he has incredibly flashy plays, like we saw on his Akali.
I think on a pick like Ryze as well, in this game, is really scary. You know, we already talked about some of the strong team fighting from Gen G. Keen going to be so hard to kill. But a level 16 Ryze.
Oh, the bubble. And the culling. Now Ruler's just trying to get away with the neck. It's interrupted. And that's a kill. Going over to Career and maybe another one onto Duro. Smash picks that one up. And the duo kill in the bottom lane is huge for DK.
Great plays for the bot lane of D+, able to find both members of Gen G in Korea with the bubble there. Really just catching Ruler out. Ruler not really getting much value from his net in that situation. Yeah, just some great plays there in the 2v2. The Lucian now with the one item completed suddenly just feels a lot more relevant in those skirmishes. I felt like they've been weathering the storm in the lane. They get those kills and now Smash with a substantial gold lead in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at the gold. You know, Gen G was winning on the top side of the map with that gank onto Xiu, but after this, now we have 15,000 gold, or 1,500 gold in the lead for Smash. Not 15,000 in this version of League.
So goes aggressive and gets a lot of damage onto Duro, but that bubble onto Ruler, and then the wave for the Nami clipping him as well as he goes to net. But like Korea just did everything perfectly to catch Ruler out, who didn't think he was the focus target. You know, it was also Smash's culling aim, so it was hitting Duro. But as soon as Duro left, Ruler became the new focus, and I think Ruler just did not expect them to transition so quickly onto focusing him. So very well played there. Ruler will be able to back away, but has not been having a fun game so far, it seems.
Yeah, he responded well to some of the pressure, but not the most recent pressure. We got an ult here into Showmaker, and a Realm Warp coming down. Showmaker does have flash, but he's already just dead. He just kind of accepts his fate, and now Lucid trying to get in there, but Canyon with the help of Duro are able to push them away. Ruler is just so low. Like, he's not even really a champion at this point, and I think T+Kia can just bully them out of the top lane with this. Although Canyon with his Crescent Guard is still difficult to dive.
Keen TPing up here. He's a very relevant presence right now that has to be respected. Setting up that play in the bot lane onto Showmaker that Chovy helped to capitalize on. But right now the Herald does seem to be just going over to D+. Keen shows up to help defend the top lane tower, but they're not going to contest this Herald. Instead, opting to keep Chovy bot and pick up this tower in return, which I think makes sense. You know, the Herald often is just translated into damage onto towers. I know we've seen the combat Heralds, but if you can get this full tower in return, it's a lot of gold onto Chovy right now. We talked about that massive lead. Smash got over Ruler thanks to those bot lane kills. Well, Chovy's lead is matched that already.
Yeah. And really all he did was farm well in mid and then dive bot one time into an Annie who was just alone when the rest of D+K were on the top side of the map. And now Gen G, with this pressure on the bottom side of the map, get another objective. So this is Infernal Drake. It's Chemtech Soul, which, you know, for a Ryze and Jiao Sion is not the worst.
Honestly, there's some comps where Chemtech Soul just feels so irrelevant. This is a composition where it definitely has a lot more weight for Gen G. Still not the craziest. You talked before about like potential of a Mountain Soul. That would have felt crazy.
Yeah.
But it's still a relevant boost in power if they can secure it.
Chovy actually not last hitting those minions, trying to give his buddy Ruler just a little bit of extra, just to try to get him back in the game. It feels like
it's just funny that the most farm in the game is Chovy, and then it's Keen. It's just like you're so used to like the tank top being third place. This time it's Ruler who's really been suffering. And a Caitlyn who's behind doesn't feel super inspiring. Obviously a pick that is always going to be relevant eventually when you get enough items, but right now Smash is in a great position on the Lucian. You know, has a 2-item spike. As much as Rapid Fire Cannon doesn't add a ton to your damage, it just means you can play around those burst combos, use that extra range for harass. He's gone First Strike as well. And with the Nami, compared to having the Milio, with the Imperial Mandate, this is really where you start to hit.
Smash being very annoying. Even though there were 4 traps set up, they're all gone now. Ruler has to stick around. And you see Lucid kind of lurking. I mean, they would love to just really hammer it home with another kill onto Ruler in mid lane if possible. The Culling is going to do a good job of chunking him out and really just solidifying this pressure that Smash and Career have.
And this is honestly what Lucian Nami does the best. And for Ruler already to be in a deficit, it feels even worse going up against this because you just play so well around the mid wave. You can just harass endlessly. The enemy AD carry can't walk up, can't really contest the wave because every time you do, you can be dashed on and just bursted out. And so Genji's having to kind of work overtime, not only just to try and help Ruler out who is behind, but just this is the point of the game where Lucian Nami will have the most pressure. So Chovy moves in to help, but now they're looking at Hugh.
Yeah, Canyon very tanky at this point, but she was going to dodge quite a bit here. But with Duro also coming over, Ruler tanking the turret for a long time. Duro comes in, secures the kill for himself, and meanwhile, the rest of DK are winning on the map.
Yeah, this wasn't the best play from Gen.G. The aggro juggling was a little off, ends up being Duro getting the kill, but also, just in terms of the map, D+ pounce immediately. It's like, yes, you killed our Jace, but we're going to take 2 towers in return from this. And it ends up being pretty favored overall for D+. I will say, though, for Gen.G, they are getting gold onto Ruler specifically, which is something they definitely need to do. Bartle will stop that last charge, so not going to give them even more value from that. I think the game's still very close. I mean, you can see the gold and Gen.G having those 2 dragons in favor, but this sort of mid-game is really where D+ want to be strong and where they can leverage a lot of their power. I do think that team fights can be a bit tricky. You want to land that poke. You also want to connect Showmaker onto the right targets. But there's a lot of power for them right now. And before Ruler starts racking up items, and before Chovy gets a completed Rod of Ages, hits level 16, you really need to win this next fight. You really need to deny this 3rd dragon from Gen.G. And honestly, if you crush this fight, Baron is going to be up and available, so that might be the win con for D+. You crush this next fight, and then go straight to Baron on the back of it. You can make that happen. That is a winning strategy.
Yeah, and it does feel like D+ Kia have done a decent job of twisting the knife, but they really haven't broken this game open. As you said, it's still very close. The Scion still looking very unkillable. Does have a Spirit Visage, actually, pretty early on. So, decent amount of MR already on that Unending Despair.
I mean, we talked about the Annie not being the biggest threat. The Lucian actually does, with the Imperial Mandate and the Nami damage. There's a non-zero amount of magic damage. It's not crazy, though. But the Spirit Visage value on a Scion with an ending and just your shield is pretty high.
Yeah.
But undoubtedly, we'll probably be picking up a lot of armor 3rd. But still, Keen is at this point level 15. Oh, well, they killed his shield.
They did it! They got his shield down!
Yeah, he is just immortal.
Smash is like, oh. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to kill the Scion. Maybe somebody else can.
They can't just brute force.
Wow. Flash on into Smash, and he's going to have to flash over the wall himself. Gets a culling down just to show that he's very angry about that. But now Showmaker behind enemy lines, early Crescent Guard. Showmaker the one that has to flash away. As now we're following up on the Showmaker here. He is very fast, but the flash follow. Meanwhile, in mid, Keen and his buddy Ruler just going to be taken down as the Bartle does come in, and Keen is just so tanky! They can't get him! And they're still chasing. Lucid taking an immense amount of damage, but Chovy also is very, very strong at this point in time. At least in this fight, as DK are going to respect and back away. But the Dragon is available, and Gen.G want to start it up.
Smash is getting sustained up, but Keen is going to cheapy back in with a full health bar and a shield. And I think that's going to put the end to any chance. No way.
It's like, hey, you guys want to play? Flash slow from Duro, not able to land the stun, but now Duro in a bit of trouble. He is going to die. And Keen says, well, I'm not just going to sit here and be a punching bag by myself.
Yeah, very scrappy, that fight. And D+ managing to get a good amount of kills there. But the Dragon does go over to Gen G. They will secure that one. So initially, they go for this engage on a smash and manage to burn his flash here. It's so close to the Sion connecting, but he just gets over the wall. Korea flashes out as well. But a lot of poke is done back in return to Duro. And then Showmaker goes for this angle. Gets focused down, flashes away. As he's getting chased in, Ruler ends up going just way too aggressive here. And Lucid finds beautiful kick. Keen is getting focused down by 4 members, and as tanky as he is, he eventually would go down, but he manages to disengage from the situation. And then we had that ensuing chaos where Keen TP back in, was able to sort things out. Duro obviously went down. It is D+ with the gold lead. They've managed to maintain that. And with an LDR now on Smash, going to help with cutting through Keen, for sure. But Gen G 3 Dragons in pocket, if they get that 4th, it's a lot of extra bulkiness for a team that was already feeling very bulky. And on top of that, Chovy's just hit level 15.
Xiu very far ahead. He's going to have to flash over to Duro. But the binding is going to land, and now you've got a giant rise behind you. And Xiu, oh, nice knockback. One of the Qs did miss, and Chovy just going to...
Oh, the fade away.
Nice. Good play there from Chovy.
Baited him to run backwards and threw it at him as he teleported.
He's about to hit level 16 with that rod as well. I mean,
yeah,
Chovy,
I was going to say, he just hit level 15 before that play, and now he's about to get the Roa level up. He is going to be so strong. Has gone for the Proto Belt instead of the Actualizer, which I don't agree with personally.
Yeah.
I think we've seen Actualizer Rise be insane, but it is Chovy. I don't think you can really pull him away from Rocket Belt.
Showmaker's like, actually, I'd rather if you left. I don't want to stop this back.
Okay, he does have the Rocket Belt now. Does have level 16. One of Age's level up came in. And then they've just said, that is enough. We're going to start the Baron. Xiu hasn't respawned yet and doesn't have TP. So, D+...
Do they just lose Baron here? I mean, Lucid is like, well, there's no vision. We have no way to get in, really. As now they're face checking. And look at the health on the Baron. It's just gone.
Yep.
D+ Kia just lose it, and Gen G a very nice proactive call. And now they do want to go for a little bit of a trade here. Canyon going to throw up the Crescent Guard a little bit safely, as once again Xiu trying to do something, but instead just kind of dying as Lucid gets in, gets the kick on a Chovy, but the follow-up damage isn't there. As once again the Temper Fate going to keep everybody alive. Big Tibbers, but no follow-up, and Gen G are going to win the fight. 2 kills to Chovy. He's now 5-0 as they also have the Baron.
And Gen G just feel a bit too bulky to cut through in this situation. The Baron call is great. Xiu not being there, being late, means that D+ struggling to have the pressure to get in. They end up having to face check, but they can't really get the poke down beforehand. And then in this ensuing fight, you know, Canyon tries to create some space using his ultimate. Chovy looks for Xiu here, uses a Rocket Belt to close the distance. And this kick comes in from Lucid, but the peel from the Tempered Fate and Chovy just being so bulky with Keen in front of him as well, there just isn't the damage to cut through these tankier members. The culling being able to be soaked by Canyon as well. It's really a struggle for D+ right now when you're going through the front line. And if you're not getting the poke down early, if you're not getting access to these squishier targets like Ruler, you can see how difficult it becomes.
Oh, we're actually going to have Xiu stick around. I don't think he's going to do anything except maybe catch the wave. But the entirety of the team is here, so...
I mean, if he catches the wave, then you'd have to TP out, because they would just run him down. It's a Rise as well. A flanking Jace is a...
It's just going to flank, I guess.
We'll see them.
There's a lot of damage in a Ruler, as he's very caught off guard by this, but this... Okay, the heal comes in, and he just kind of dies, as once again, Bubble is there. Temper Fate going to get so many flashes, and now you got this giant Sion behind you with nowhere to run, as Chovy also, I believe, got kicked into the fight by Lucid. And now it's just a rout. They're running them down. Career barely going to survive, but Smash might not be as lucky, but I guess he will live for now. But Gen G kind of doing whatever they want at this point in the game.
Yeah, the flanking Jace, not the best champion we've seen for doing that. Gen G 5-man strong, gonna look for this.
Yeah, I mean, the root comes in from the Rise, and you just kind of die. There has been no answer for Chovy's Rise. There has been no answer for Keen Scion at all in this game. And that's just going to be the end of it. Gen G ended pretty early on, 27 minutes in. Don't even need to scale up. Don't even need a Caitlyn, really.
But it ultimately just wasn't enough. You see large damage numbers, but it's essentially just fluff because you're just pumping damage into a Scion who didn't die once.
Yeah. I mean, the damage numbers on Gen G make you believe, if you only look at damage, that DK won. But, yeah, not the case. Look at the goal difference graph and how quickly that fell off. Just a couple of good plays from the side of Gen G is all it took.
근데 이거 뒷편한테 아예 없긴 해요.
안찔 것 같은데.
대포로 밀
없긴 하다.
야 리신 리신 리신. 야 뒤에 헤이스.
괜찮아 괜찮아.
제이스. 뒤에 잡았고. 야 이거 가자.
감이 노플.
야 가져.
아 리신
아,
대리.
루시안 너플.
야 끝내 생각하자.
나 탱 좀 할게, 지훈아. 탱 좀 할게.
나 큐플 볼게.
야 루시안 끝. 루시안 끝.
얘 베리어 썼다.
아 탱크.
탑으로 쭉 가자.
아, 쭉 갈게요. 형 루시안 노플.
이거 꼴레면 있다 지훈아.
이거 남이도 노플이야.
나 끝내자.
확인.
야 탑으로 하면 끝나?
기훈이 형 이거 먹을래요?
아니야 끝내자 그냥.
오케이.
나 풀탐 주면 되겠네.
그냥 데꼬지 말고.
루시안 노플.